So we got a lot of small businesses in towns, yes? Not as many as there could be. And I think that a lot of people who are online, although online is good, I think it works to have both. So if you think about it, it's another tool in the arsenal to be online. But some small companies that start off online, it never goes backwards, it seems. It seems that if you have a store somewhere, from a lot of research that I've done in different towns, and also knowing some people that have their own small businesses that are online, I never heard about them. Unless I knew the company's name and everything else, I'd have to search for that company.
Mhm.
And if they hadn't have told me, I wouldn't have known that it was about. I mean, because they get lost in the sea of an awful lot of other businesses. Competition is right. But what I have seen, if a shop has, well, if a company is in a shop somewhere, especially when we talk small businesses, they get a bit more coverage. Therefore, people begin to remember, well, some would say brand, some would say the name of the company and what they're about. And online, you can't exactly try before you buy. So I've seen a lot throughout history, and I think that we all do, but we never actually bring it to the forefront of our mind that we see a shop, then the shop goes online.
Mhm.
And part shop, part online, and this duality there seems to make quite a successful company. But however, there's a lot of small businesses that get lost in the sea of being online. So, and we've got shops that are set up in high streets. So if we take Wyndham, for example, you have that one row of shops, yes? And that seems to be about it. Yes, you have some industrial estates, but again, if there is so much there that it would be, mm, I don't know, if I've ever had a car where I've walked, I've never really gone to these other shops that are there.
Mhm.
Sometimes I find them because of somebody else has said, oh, by the way, I've got a shop over in the industrial estate. And then I look at some of these companies and I think they're doing all right. They've got a bit of a reputation. Reputation means that the rent gets paid, where you've got a lot of small shops. So, and I was also looking into something in the recent days. I'll just say HOL. That's a reference for myself. HOL. Yeah, so, and then I was looking at Thetford High Street. You've got that main high street. Now, when I've inquired about how much it is to rent a shop, it's staggeringly expensive. Then when you factor in energy and everything else. So I was thinking, rather than everything going online, it gets lost in the noise of a lot of other stuff. And then there's only the really reputable companies that have hundreds of millions that can put into storefronts down in a street and a town. But any small business, forget it. You're not going to be able to, it's going to be very unlikely. And then how do you know that what you've got people are going to want? And likewise, you could have a really good business idea, but it's not getting the traffic that it deserves because no one knows about it. And then I was thinking about high streets, and also we've got this thing here where we've got like social housing. But again, this would take time. So you've got social housing, and then you've got private rented. I think all shops are private rented. Near enough all of them through the towns and cities are private rented stores. So, and then to build houses, social housing, what about social shops? So they become a bit more cheaper. This would take time and it's not guaranteed. What would this do? It would make affordable rent for anyone that wants to start a business, yes? This gets their foot in the door. However, there'd have to be terms, T's and C's applied to that. So if the company was small, trying out, doesn't know how good their brand is, location is everything. Um, it's this is a complex thing here, which makes it quite challenging because how do you keep it? You don't want to be making a social shop, if you like, just for the sake of it. And then if this company in the social shop starts making XYZ amount of money, and then they start making multi-millions, let's say, then there should be a rule in place that says, okay, you're okay to have a social shop,
Mm-hmm.
but if you earn over, let's say, 1 million in the first year, it's then time for you to leave that shop and go and get something that's a bit more private rented, that's in a bit more of a city environment or something else like that. I mean, would that be fair? Because then it frees up that shop for another company to come in its place. Do you get what I mean? So if all social housing across the United Kingdom built houses, but also shops, you see, we got a lot of expansion going on in towns everywhere,
Yeah.
but they're not expanding the shops.
No.
You might have the odd like village store or the odd like town store added in, but other than that, there is nothing else. And then there could open an opportunity up for people who have a small business who are online, that they get a bit of a reputation in a certain area. Would, if they became successful, I think that if they're fledglings that are starting to make high street shops, let's say, then if they earned over 100,000 in 1 year, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
could they be offered another shop in another area that's a bit bigger, more people? And if they then, because what the social shops would want a strategy in is to get these companies so that they start, yes, making their money and whatnot, but also bringing produce into people that live in the area. This gets people back into work, especially people who are good with business mindset. I think your talent's wasted if you're in working in another shop doing a 9 till 5. If you've got a business idea and it's pretty damn good, you know, you can get pretty good advertising via word of mouth. It's the most successful. Advertising is not as successful as the word of mouth. Someone's got to be in it to experience it, to talk about it. So there would have to be a strategy that would be in place that helps the social shops, which then helps the social housing. The rent that comes from this could be slightly more than a house. That would be understandable. This puts more money into the social housing pot for repairs in all the properties and expanding XYZ, and for building more houses and shops. Then if they were to say start with one shop, see how it goes, they start to grow. Then they're offered at a certain cash bracket another shop, so they can have two, and then they can start to run staff between the two. They move to this one, and then when they hit let's say, I don't know, let's say 750,000, right? Because you're almost there to a mil then. Then it's time to start thinking, okay, private rented. You've got a reputable company now. Word of mouth is working for you, and it's spreading like wildfire, as it often does. You are then able, with this amount of money, to give up these two shops for somebody else to have a go. The same chance that you've now got. And your way to pay that back would be to move into a more private rented area. Private rented would be more than happy to take you on. Why? Because you're a reputable company. You don't need a loan because you know the ropes, you know the walk. If the social housing could work with HM and they could put in a till that automatically takes care of tax off of the till straight up, so it does all of your finances for you at a price. I think that works. It takes a little bit more of the headache out of filing each year and different things, and it keeps you up to date on your tax. I think that would be a good service combined in with a till and what you sell, incorporated online, plus what you sell, and then it really helps the tax system out, which it could be done with HMRC, I think it is. Which is good for the economy again, because it's putting into the tax pot, and you ain't got to worry about that sort of headache at a cost. So finances, and then it just leaves you to run your company. And then hopefully you can go into some private rented. And yeah, then this allows the social shops to find somebody else. And then they would start getting a backlog of, application forms. What's your idea? What stuff do you need? And the social shops could put you in touch. They could do two things if they wanted to do this. Again, there is that. Or if not, there could be a new company that starts out. So you would have what you're going to sell, your products, and what resources you need to make it happen. And if the social shop side of it from social housing, which is affordable shop price, location is everything, you're getting word of mouth, plus you keep on with your internet as well, this will spread. If they also had manufacturers of different materials apply to the social shops scheme, social shops scheme, so you could have resources reach out to the social shop scheme, and you could also have what the shop is needing to get it lifted, the company, the small company, what does it need? And they could sort of marry the two together again for another premium price, perhaps, added on top of your rent. We'll find you resources, put you in touch with with the resources that you need. And the resources company, go on, if you want to give us a little bit of something, we'll put you in touch with new companies. And then you go already, this is where you'd like to look at a society where people are helping people for a greater good, which is there's more betterness for in society, it's more fairer, you've got more businesses that are starting to take off. High streets are no longer as empty. They become bustling places where people come together. And this is good for morale, where lots of people come together in places, I believe. I think if you've got a good high street, you've got a good atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I don't know, then it creates this thing, currency. Money starts to then begin to move. This gets more people out spending. This is good for our growth. It's good for growth in the aspect of, buying and selling. It's good for resources. And it's also good for small businesses. It's good for the private market, and it's good for social market, which then can go on to help. I mean, after all, the social shops that then can pay into social housing to build more social shops. There'd have to be a limit on the amount of shops that you build, because you don't want to be having a social housing replace all of their houses for shop purposes. So there'd have to be limits done on that. That can be implemented by government. You see, if I was running the political party, this is where I would go with this, and this would help to lead people out of 9 till 5s if they've got a good brain on their shoulders and they know how to run a business, or they're not sure and a little bit nervous, because when we start looking at the tax system, it's a pain in the ass. If this was incorporated, it's less of a pain in the ass. Then you've got prices. If you're going into something and you haven't got much of a reputation behind you, this will be the trial and error, I guess. It's a big amount of debt that you end up getting into, and then as a nation you begin to accumulate more debt, and it seems to, other people will look at that and think that business failed, that business failed, that business failed, and it starts to create a belief system. Oh, I suppose I will just go here. And then your nation starts to shrink down because of this, because they create a belief system. Why don't you go and get a shop? There's a few people that I've been asking this to, and even in yesterday I said, well, why don't you do a business? Fuck that. Why not? It's confusing. It's this. There's a lot there that it puts them off. I'm not going to say that running a business is going to be easy, but if we could take that element of what is the arse-ache out of it, I think this is what's destroying the high streets. And then everything is so expensive. There's that keeps being said. So at the moment, this would take time to establish. So I was thinking a little bit more on top of this. I noticed that there's a lot of common land. You know, when you go past fairgrounds and different things like that, we also got this rule in this country that I don't think it's the rule of the nation. I think it's the rule of certain landowners that when a static caravan gets to a certain age, is no longer allowed on a site.
Mm.
But again, if you see, I wouldn't want to do this unless I had a load of applications. See, if I was running the nation in this with being a government, you'd have to tread this one very carefully.
Mm.
So it would be either looking towards a charity, part tax pot, part your council tax, and different things like that. It's already burning a hole in my pocket already. And I'd also have to look at the static caravan services, let's say, because there are so many in these, search it.
Yeah.
These are past a date where the landowners that want them for living quarters won't accept them.
Yeah.
Because they've gone past a certain age. And then there's loads of these just sitting in places. It's not really doing very well for a business, and we're just accumulating resources, and then they sit there collecting dust, these static caravans. So, and I've been in a few of these. Now, I was doing this RV. I was redesigning an RV, different things. Not RV, it's more like a static caravan. From wood, different things like that. Now, I've got some blueprints where I convert them into shops. Now, depending on what you're selling, and then we've got the place where we've got high streets are quite expensive.
Yes.
I was looking at councils and thinking that they have a lot of these green spaces. Common lands are an exception to the rule. Common lands are often given by the monastery, the nunneries, given to the people of certain towns, especially when we look at Thetford. Though all of that land there is common land, and you can have a fair there. Remove the fair idea and bring in a load of static caravans that plot on the site. I'm going to draw a few of these. Now, let's say we were to gut a few of these and then convert them into shops. So you sort of extend the town, but make a sort of moving town, let's say. And you could do this in Thetford. You can do it in Wyndham as well. There's the area near... you've got the area of the rugby club. You've also got car parks, which are also owned by council and different things like that. So these things can roll in. And then you start an application process. Now, you see, this is the part that gets me a little bit, what do we do about that? So, if you've got someone that likes to bake a lot of cakes and different things like that, rather than say we're going to charge you a rent for this, what do you think you could earn in a month, 2 months, for argument's sake, and then have a sort of notice board there? Because one, this makes it very affordable, if you minus the static caravan. But some of these go for scrap. And they'll say, oh, they're a bit... Yes, but these can be fixed very quickly and efficiently, to be honest. It wouldn't cost much money. It wouldn't be a very terribly big overhead, especially if you were working part in a charity. And then they just need a till. You got your fire exits at the back. You got the door at the front for the entrance. You could convert these to have a storage space inside, or shop and shelves. And my word, you utilize the space correctly, and you can get an awful lot of produce in there. And especially if you're just a small business, let's say if you were making cakes, or you had a service that you were selling, and you put those into these environments, and then you make a sort of, you extend the town shop for a bit. And then the person's in there for, I don't know, 3 months. And then someone else is in there for 3 months, someone else is in there for 3 months. Now, let's say you have a large application list. This is a rotary service. So for 3 months, these particular shops are in. Then another 3 months, these are in while these ones are out. And then another group come in, and then you just keep rotating it. And then you go back to the previous. And then this one really helps you understand what the mood of the market is inside the town without going through the private rented sector. You charge a commission. You see, I was thinking about a commission based, so that you don't want to be selling Nan's cakes or pies or whatever it may be for, like, I don't know, £4. You want to be able to do it so that it's cheap, and then based on the produce that you sell, there's a rent charge come off of this for the
Mhm.
time that you've stayed there. There's a tax come off of it. And this is just purely to see, because you never know. What if you get someone in there with a business, much like you get the social shops? This is just to test the scheme out
Mhm.
where it really takes off.
Yeah. Yeah.
That to me would then tell me that there is a need in the town or community
Mhm.
for this particular type of produce.
Yeah.
That would be a high winner for me, that you would do well in this next scheme.
Mhm.
And then there could be some that try it out and it's not successful. That doesn't mean that it's not successful around the country. No, it just means that in this particular town, it's not successful.
Mhm.
And you could try to go to another town, another town. So if you had a load of these in Wyndham, and you had a load in Thetford, and you just keep going across the United Kingdom with just a few of these that roll out just to trial it,
and you see where it takes off.
Where you've got 3 months here, would you be willing to travel 3 months over there? At the end of the day, I think people would say yes. They're going to get some pennies in the pocket. I dare say it's not going to be pennies, but and it's a sort of pay-as-you-go shop where it's done on the commission that keeps it in fairness with, depending on what you're selling, with the competition that's already about. New type of cafe, restaurant, new type of food service. I mean, you can just keep going with this.
And helps you because you find out that in certain area you are more successful.
Yeah.
So you keep around that area.
And then this helps the business owner know what is working in the shop and what didn't sell. And then if this went on where you were traveling across the UK from different of these environments to one to the other, and you noticed that there was a theme, these didn't sell too well, but these were a big hit. It helps you maneuver towards that, so you become shop ready for if you were to enter into this. And perhaps this is a side hustle for you. A weekend thing, you're doing a 9 till 5, you want to keep your 9 till 5, but you just do a weekend, 2 days a weekend, where you're in your own shop just to see how it goes, learn the land, so to speak. I mean, this would be great for private rented and social shops if it came to it. And then it gets us a feel, and then it helps the resources know what's needed in. Because you never know, you could have a cash and carry that works just as well for this, where they can get a good deal to help them keep going on whatever it is they may be doing and what resources they need. A small type of, someone comes out with a technology that is, they thought it was just something that wasn't going to make anywhere, and they just give this a try. What have you got to lose? It's pay as you go. There's not going to be a rent charged on you. There is, but it's going to be done on commission on what you sell. And you never know, the next generation of technology shop could be there, a new type of gadget trend. And then this helps you as a council, if you like, which then helps the government, which then helps the nation, and then helps the community know what's... this was really big. This was massive. You managed to sell this much stuff. You generated this much money. We really think that you should go into a... Have you ever considered it? And then this gives people who have a lot of good ideas a freaking best chance possible. And then you never know, they could make an environment that's so great that people want to work in this type of environment. And I think that as leadership, that helps to lead people into work, into an enjoyable environment, into... And then there could be an even bigger scheme on top of this, which works with the social shops. That helps to... We can help with this, this, and this. We can oversee this. We can get you in touch with job centres. We can put this type of new work upcoming. Have you ever thought of a career change XYZ into job centres? This puts more jobs in the job centre for people to go and have a look. All I dare say that it could even be that if some people were not 100% with it, but wanted the support from, let's say, the state,
Mhm.
there could be contracts written. There can be chances that if someone was like, you know what, I loved doing it, but it's just not for me, there could be an opportunity for the state to go, would you mind if we took your idea? We'll buy it off you. If you're going to do nothing with it, sell it to us. Because there would be seen potential in that type of company, and if the other person's more than happy to, yeah, all right then. So this is then when it starts to generate, I don't know if that could even work, to be honest. Perhaps where there's a yearly fee given to the person or whatnot as the company expands, you there's a bit more, bit more, bit more.
Mhm.
It's possible. And then it sort of gives back to the community, and it also gives an opportunity for people who may have never gone into it
Yeah.
due to this whole belief system that they've created about the whole process is just much of an arse ache.
Gives more services or products in the area. So.
I mean, you can trial this out. For me personally, I trial it out.
Yeah.
None of this stuff is permanent. It can be put there and then moved to a storage land, for example. The shops can be there for a bit. They could be there at weekends. They could go to common land during the week or whatnot. It extends the town. It gets more competition going, and if these are a bit more cheaper, the shops are going to look at that and think, better lower my prices.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it gives this sort of fair
Yeah.
competition. And it's, again, if it was under a certain amount of money,
Mhm.
till you reach that threshold, it's probably time that it's better that you went off this avenue. You know, you're doing really well as a shop.
Yeah.
You know, and we could find you X amount of spaces across the United Kingdom, depending on how big the company or how much of a success it is. Already have some places lined up. Well, we've got one here in Essex, we've got one here in Norfolk, we've got one here in Suffolk.
Mhm.
We think that these would be good places based on the data that's come back. And we've already found these. With this much, we would take this for the rent to pay that off. And then just work with companies, new companies, to get them up and started. I think this works for overall economy, really, no matter where you are. I think this really helps. These things are not going to, you know, if your car park isn't really doing much on a Sunday or whatnot, or you've got some common land, you might as well make use of it. Whether it's, you never know, breeding animals, and they go there and want to, you know, sell some animals or whatever it is. What do you need? Well, we need this. Okay, we could make these so that they could tap into a blooming street lamp somewhere or something to get the energy or whatnot. Backed to a solar field. Also, as if this come from council, I would recommend that there would be solar panels put on the top of all of these, so that whether they are in the car park,
Mhm.
on common land,
Mhm.
they're generating energy,
Yeah.
and then if they're taken off site for a bit because we've got, you know, there's a bit of a quiet season, then a booming season, then a quiet season, they're still generating, they're still
Energy.
giving back into the grid, if you get what I mean.
Mhm.
And then they begin to start to pay for themselves.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then this has good, if you could sell these on afterwards as well. And then you make a little town within a town.
Yeah.
Then word of mouth really starts. Whether you got some in there that are cafes or whatnot. Just to start to build people up, I think. And then this then makes you wonder whether it's worth it for social housing to start building social shops at an affordable rent scheme.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all taxable on that.
Mhm.
That's good for the overall tax pot.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I'd go this way. At least there's the blueprint. Do you reckon we can make this happen?
Yeah, that's not
Then if people are in these RVs as well, you never know, static caravans and whatnot, and they see them,
Mm.
wow, these are pretty big. Yeah, they're not bad. Oh, these are pretty warm. Wow, this is pretty good. Most people have the impression that these places are damp. It's not all of them. It's not really true, that. And you could also sell these too.
Mm.
And if the council had a pitch of land somewhere, and they could hitch these up, and that sort of helps perhaps the housing crisis that everyone, it sort of this can run away to do a lot more, and especially if you put solar panels on it. If you're making energy from the grid, yes, the initial payment is going to be something, but you'd hope that that would then start to take off, because these things will start to pay for themselves, even if they stood empty. They're going to make a bit of power. This can be sold on,
Yeah.
depending on where this was. Yeah, and plus you get little shops in these areas as well. I mean, it really could work. Then it utilizes all of those thousands and thousands of static caravans that we've got that are just sitting on land somewhere, people trying to sell them.
Yeah,
But they
there's
can't,
money,
because as
yeah.
soon as they go to buy one,
Yeah.
they'll take it to a land and they're like, sorry, it's past this date.
Yeah,
Wait, what do you mean? It's got a use by date on it.
yeah.
It's too old, we can't have it on the land. So we're accumulating this, and that is a wasted resource. The way I look at that's sitting on someone's land, they're making a business out of it, but it's a trickle business. If these static caravans didn't sell for quite a high bracket, these companies wouldn't have enough for the land for these things to sit on, and then that becomes a waste project.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a waste.
Yeah.
So, and some of these can be jazzed up quite nicely and utilized into a temporary accommodation, if not permanent. Some people like it, some people don't. Or at the very least, you have a holiday park. Part holiday park, part this. Very stringent rules, though, would have to be enforced in these places. The ruling would have to be more than housing. If you were to get a bit of a garden there, you couldn't stack up loads of junk, and the place would have to look nice.
Yeah.
Then there's cleaning services that would need to go around. That would be mandatory, that these things would be cleaned. You don't want to have rotting and yucky looking sort of stuff, because it's an eyesore and it doesn't fit into the scene.
Yeah.
No one is going to want that, and you have to clean your act up. And then, there would have to be checks done on the inside to make sure it's being lived in correctly. No rubbish. No build up of rubbish at all. If not, you're out. You don't want to tell anyone how to live, but at the same time, these places can't be filled with rubbish, junk, and be crapped up, because it poses a risk to public health and community health. So it would be a respectful community, and do you think you can keep it clean in the contract?
Yeah.
We're not going to evict anyone if they don't keep it clean. I think we could. I think that should have to be put in. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because it's temporal.
Yeah.
And these have got to go on to help other people who are in that sort of situation, because it's a bit to have respect. You were in it. It safeguarded you for a bit. You got to keep it clean, keep it respected, and this will be a safe refuge for somebody else. And it's affordable. If you think about it, it can be quite affordable, these things. So this really starts to snowball, to be fair. Throw in a few solar trees in between. I think that can look quite nice. It can become quite a nice environment to be at. Yeah, you can really visualize that. That'd be quite a community, and then this gives time for social shops to take up.
They would be welcome there, social shops.
Yeah, I think that, but it'd have to be done in a. Someone might say that that's unfair, though. If I've
Mhm.
gone there to have a shop, yes, but then no, there would have to be a bracket on if you've got X amount of money.
Mm,
No, I'm sorry, you can't have it. We're
mm,
looking to go from zero to something, from
mm.
rags to riches.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's talking in community sense,
Mm,
because the objective is to get you into the high streets, to
mm,
get you into the city
yeah.
centres. And then this gives a bit of confidence. I mean, a bank would back you, but again, would you need a bank if you did it this way? You sort of step, step, step. If it just ain't working,
Mm,
there's a limit on how much this is gonna. We don't want to be accumulating debt because it's weird to me. I find it very weird that something didn't work and then you've accumulated a mass amount of debt.
mm,
And then we've got to factor this into calculations as a national debt when really no one really used that.
mm,
They
mm,
never really used that amount of money. That's
yeah.
just 6 month contract and whatnot. I don't know, a year contract, 4 year contract. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not really sure. If it's not working, it's not working. Let's stop now.
Yeah.
Let's not wait in hope.
Mm,
Like you can't be that in a business. If it doesn't work, shut it down immediately.
yeah.
It'll save you a ton of debt. It
Mm,
saves, and then it opens up the space for somebody
mm,
else. Don't sit and wait and hope that this is gonna take off this business, because if it isn't gonna, it isn't gonna. You're more than welcome to go and try that in private rented area, but here, no. And then I think there would have to be some new rules on about because this would be eviction in a way, wouldn't it,
mhm,
or repossess? And I think that would have to be done on the sign up. Look, if it doesn't work after X amount of time, shut it down.
mm,
It doesn't mean that you can't try again. It just means let's just close the chapter on this, and you can either go away with the data that you've got, look at
mm,
that, and think how you're going to transform it and
yeah.
have another go.
Yeah. Improve your service or your product.
You see, this is why I would like the static caravan version before that, because you then get this sort of. You're not going to accumulate much debt.
Mm,
It's a smaller environment, smaller rent, and then if it's 3 months at a time, it gives you that ability to
mm,
adjust your company. You can already start firing. You just need to aim.
mhm,
You find your aim. When you
yeah.
find your aim, it gives you a chance to get going. Okay, this is working really well for you. Have you ever been interested in social shop?
Mm,
Well, what's that? It's a social shop scheme. It's cheap on the rent. It's cheaper than the rent. It's this, that, and the other. Blah 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 blah. We think that this would be very good. We can keep you here on this rotary until a place comes available. Okay, there's a place available. Okay, off you go. Then it starts to flourish. You get to X amount. Okay, you've reached the threshold. You should go over to private. You'll be better off in a town or a city somewhere now.
mhm,
And then you free up this for someone else because we've got somebody else that was once where you were at.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it must be exciting. And then
Mm,
when this one's leaving and meets this one, I mean, there can be some good exchange. That feeding that positive rather than that doubt of negative or
mm,
the
yeah.
stress. It takes the stress out of it, I think, and I think this is good for any economy. Call me naive, but I think this would be much more better for any economy. And then banks are not going to be so hesitant then.
Mm,
Because I think again, if banks are going to be hesitant, we're going to give you this money. It's if it don't work, what's gonna?
yeah.
And then if you go bankrupt or anything else, where does that money go?
Mm,
Yeah, you might have moved that money out, and it's now in the pocket of somebody else somewhere, in another savings account somewhere, or some. Yeah, do you get what I mean?
yeah.
And that type of it makes banks very hesitant.
Mm,
I can appreciate that. So I think this can work for banks as well. It works for social housing. It works for the private rented sector. It takes the pressure off of these areas anyway.
yeah.
Some of these rents in the high street are going up, and some of the small businesses are really struggling. I think it's all of these overheads that are going up.
Yeah.
Energy's going up. This is going
Too
up.
much.
Plus, you need Wi-Fi. Plus, you
Yeah.
need this.
Yeah.
And then the companies that they're sourcing from, they're going up. They're going, and then every pound that is going up, oh, it's just a pound here, but it's just a pound here. It's now £20 there. It's now £40 here. It's now, in the beginning when you started, this was affordable, but this, then you start pushing your prices up in the high street, and then people are like, do you know what? This is pinching me too, you know? I don't know if I can want to pay you. Well, why not? Because I can go to that manufacturer directly and get it from them. And it'll cost me even less.
And it's the same thing.
Well, then that causes that company, what have they got to do? Closing down sale. Because they can't afford to do it, and then they might go over to the internet. Yeah, your reach isn't... Yes, you've killed an overhead, but at the same time, was your reach big? Were you just in a village? Were you just in a town? You weren't city status. Is there enough power behind the word of mouth? Because the word of mouth you closed down, but it got really expensive. What do you think people in that area are believing about your company?
But it's expensive.
It's expensive. They're not going to look you up online.
And other people do not know you, and there's many others. And
Yeah.
these days they have a good keywords and stuff like that. It's not easy.
And if you're a friend of this person over here that owns this house here, and you know, your business can stay open, but this one is struggling at the... I think it eliminates that as well. That's the one I really want to go for, is that buddy system. This gets rid of that. And it makes it affordable. But the rule would have to be, when starting this again, if I was in power, I'd set that... Is it legislation? I believe it would be. I'd work with individuals to really try and make this happen, that this here doesn't increase in rent from the static caravan version. You know, it'd have to be made really nice on the outside. It'd have to be very warm and welcoming. A bit like Christmas and decorations. Do you get what I mean? Like, the community miss it when it's gone. Bring it back! Yeah, do you know what I mean? Then hopefully then more people will put into that, we've got this business idea. This is pretty good. The bank will be like, this is a good idea, but we don't want to lend for it because we don't know how far that's going to, what reach that's going to do. And they're asking for quite a bit of money. Okay, let's start small and let's see if we accumulate this. Yeah, okay, can we? And that gives the bank to say, look, we're not going to give you a loan, but have you heard of this scheme? Do you want to try that out? And then if the council come in and be like, okay, it's your idea if you share it with us, you know, and the bank can say that as well. It'll always be your business for as much as it is your business. We just want to know in order to help you. But whether you take it or you don't, it's you go and do as you were. And then take this type of example and then keep this so that it doesn't inflate as much as this, to the point where it's like £2,700 a month rent type thing, or wherever it may go. I think that some of these shops are treating every business like they're multi-millionaires. Like they've got billions in a bank somewhere. And to be honest, if something doesn't give, it's going to kill our economy. If not, it's already doing it.
Look at the empty towns.
And as far as much as I can look back, this is the problem that seems to have risen. This is it. Back in the day when they were first building Thetford and expanding it, it's prices.
So many empty shops there now.
It's killing the economy. And then legislation to be wrote in that this is going to stay. And then this puts pressure on private renters or lets, whatever it is. Lower your price or this is going to swallow you. Okay then. It's that sort of, I'm looking at you and I'm telling you something without actually saying anything. Yeah, do you get, you know, this is, because at the end of the day, as a government, you are here to protect the interests of everybody in this and try to make it as compatible for everybody. And I think I've done my best to try and include everybody in this. So you can't please everyone, but I think this can.
Government should make it work, shouldn't it?
I think a good government leads people into this.
Yeah, it should lead people to help them live in where they live. They live in villages, they live in towns, they live in cities. But towns shouldn't be dead and villages shouldn't be dead just because the rent for shops is so high.
Yeah, and we got that ruling in, which you understand it, that councils will say you can't have a business in your house.
Yeah.
Do you see? And I think this comes from, you got to look at that law and think about why is that in place, and there could be a number of reasons. One, it seems like it's too cheap and perhaps private.
Mm.
If everyone could do it from their house, they probably would. Then what type of business are you doing? Is it noisy? Does it require more drain on the energy? Does it do this? Does it do that? Because you need to update your meter and it has to be put on a phase free. I mean, then are you going to be disturbing people in the community that have a right to a private life, right to a quiet life, right to enjoy the quietness? And you know, I think it formulates from that type of yeah. If I wanted to fucking have a live in a business area, I would have moved to a town.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you see? I think that's where that comes from. So, you know, when looking at that, that would have been the first thing I looked at, and it was, you can't please people in that situation. This way works better. This way, I think, really helps to balance it. And then some farmland, I was thinking, if I'm going to grow this a little bit more in villages, could offer the field. You know, if they've got a bit of wasteland where they're not growing on it, you know, could they offer a piece of land to sort of help a village and people who are within the villages or different stuff like that? Perhaps not. I'd go down more of the same way you've got public footpaths. Could we implement something a bit more like this? After all, certain farmers could be selected to do a public service in that aspect. If you get what I mean. Would you want to join this scheme? You know, well, I'm not using this particular bit of land for 6 months or something. I would be more than happy to, you know. But again, it mustn't start getting to the point where it's costing the equivalent of what PR is, private rented. Not saying I got anything against private rented because I don't. The objective would be that when they earn a certain amount of money and they've got it and the business is really growing, that's trust for you, private landlord. Yeah, that's expansion, and that helps your high street as well.
Helps the business to prove that they are worthy to the bank.
Yeah. But there'd have to be new contracts in that, you know, if it starts to fail and it starts to dip below and it starts to fall, I think there should then be, it's probably time to sort of shut that down for a bit. Go back out again afterwards, after a few months, or change your location. If possible. Which again, the same way you've got your exchange scheme on let's say the council website, you'd have another one for the business exchange scheme. That's the next thing. You know, perhaps you were more booming in this area over here, but you're stuck in the shop over here. You don't have enough money to do all of this, but someone else over there is a bit more better over here. Can you swap? Can you relocate? You know, between both of them? Well, yes, this makes better. Why? Because it helps the community here and it helps the community over there. Business movers then start to create another business from that again. This could really work, I think. Moving businesses from one place to the other. You might not have enough to expand, you know. Before closing down your shop, can we try doing an exchange? Yes, so this I didn't think this would grow so much in the video, but it has. It's really, I planted a seed and watched it grow before my very eyes, so I'm adding more into it. So I can really run with this, so it's gaining momentum. So usually when things do that, makes sense to me. But there you are. So if I quick ponder on that. But yeah, that's just my little it'd take many people working together in order to make this happen. And if there could be some, for this, the RVs, solar panels on the roof, convert them into shops. You've got your 3-month scheme, 6-month scheme. When it comes to Christmas, when you have those craft markets, this would be chock-a-block, I think. And then, after Christmas, these can move away, or, these can be taken down, brought there, taken away, brought there, taken there. When they're in storage, the solar panels are generating into the grid, slowly but making the money back for what these were purchased at. If you worked part with the tax and part with, so it's not such a burden on the tax pot, if there can be some ways that some services that are not really needed so much, that freed money, could it move over to that? Then if you've got some charities that are working into this as well, part charity, part tax, part social housing, which then do social shops. Lots of people working together. Then you've got central government councils. You've then got the tax that is going to be accumulated. So you've got HMRC as well, a type of incorporative, it just takes that arse ache. You never know. If that system works pretty well, it will probably roll out into most businesses, for a fee. More tills you need, more this you need. Well, there's going to be more ping, So, yeah, this is a lot of people working together in order to make something happen, and hopefully prosperity for all people and opportunities for all people, small businesses, or because it's a shame to see some businesses fall down because it's got too expensive. Could this safeguard them? Because they are falling because of the prices are rocketed beyond what they could, and there was a comfortable phase, and now we're not so much in that comfortable phase.
No, it's really not good, is it?
No. So I think the internet, although it's great, it's a tool, and word of mouth is usually quite the... And when you get a reputation, God, I went in that shop the other day, it was so expensive. Oh yeah, I hear they're closing down and they're going online. Forget that, they're really expensive. And when you hear that, when people are talking that on the... that's a buzz. That word of mouth, once again, that is your advertising.
They will remember that.
And when they remember that, they won't think to look up your shop. And then you'll think, why is no one coming here? And it must be disheartening. Someone's got a good idea. It's not your fault. It's not this fault. It's just the way human behavior is. The same way word of mouth works for you, it also works against you in certain circumstances. Then you've got loads of people out there that have got really good, I feel, that are pretty damn good business ideas. But as soon as you say, oh, you ever think about putting that into a business? No. Why not? Well, because this tax, this order is... Okay. Oh, it's too expensive because of this. It's getting like this, and then, it would probably start out like this, but it would then begin to, because everybody knows. And somewhere along the line, yeah, you're right. And somewhere along the lines, well, you got to take a chance. Yeah, but what the bank is going to give me any money on this, and it's like, yeah. Then the bank, if you ask the bank, they're like,
No, we don't know.
If we start giving all of this out to this and it doesn't work, this money's going to end up in someone else's pocket, and then money. You owe us something here. We gave you something, and then that person goes bankrupt. It's like meh. Was it worth printing it? Probably not. So this sort of gives the heads up, and if it's working here, the bank can sort of see that and think, we'll give you a loan. Based on it, it would be this much. I think this then helps the banks, it helps this, it helps, and you're going to pay your loan back, but it's going to be on commission. Again, if it helps in that way, rather than you finding, oh, I got to pay the bank this month, oh, I got to pay the tax over it, oh, I got to do this. No, it's all incorporated. What do you mean? Well, it takes it off the till. It takes it off your sales. And we're under the motto, pay your loan back as quickly as possible. Then you really get to feel, it's like a double whammy of that morale boost. The first newness of this all taking off. And yes, you're not making like multi-million-pound profits right now. You can't think big like that. You got to be able to think in stages. The bank's taking the money back to get it back as quickly as possible. Why? Well, because they want to give someone else an opportunity with that money. And when you give it back to us, we can circulate this to go on to another company and give them an opportunity that you've had. then after X amount of time that you've paid that back, I believe fast as possible. I think that should be your number one priority is not making a profit. It's paying back what you've borrowed in that aspect. And again, it can be written to the contract. We'll help you, but this has got to come back. Once that's done, the next few months that start to come by, you won't know what hit you. There's all this money. It teaches you to be a bit patient, and it teaches you to be a bit more wise with it. Sorry, accountants. Sorry, helps the places with resources get to you. Yeah, that could work. Right, I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to over talk it, but I think this is where I'm gonna land on this one and say that's pretty much it. Good for community, good for people, good for I think this really helps. If all the people start working in the same way to make this happen, I think that this could be a really positive thing with massive, massive outcomes. But yeah, I think this could be a good thing. All right, I'm gonna leave it there.